Okay. We have shown this video to Mr. Robles' family and consulted with them. They have requested they not be bothered if the media could respect their privacy during this time. So I would ask that you please do not try and reach out and talk to the family. Also, our press release that went out yesterday, we had the wrong age in there. Mr. Robles' age is 57. So at this time, we'll open it up for questions that we may be able to answer for you at this time. Kim?
Sure. Was this man suicidal? Was his family given an indication?
You know, that's still part of the investigation. Again, we've talked with the family. There's more people to talk to. So at this point, I'm not going to come out and make that determination. You're looking at the video and the evidence that we currently have.
Sheriff, can you confirm there were 2 officers put on administrative leave, right?
Paid leave.
Yes.
Paid leave?
Yes.
There appeared to be more officers on site. Can we clarify as to were they the first responders? And I'm assuming obviously the gentleman who fired the shots, but it appeared only one person fired shots. Can we confirm that?
We can confirm that only one officer fired shots. There was 2 officers that were there at the time of the shooting. The other officers responded after.
But the reason for the second officer then being put on administrative leave or paid leave also?
She's on leave pending critical incident debrief. When all the investigations are over, we can determine their status to move forward.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Sheriff, do the officers have the option to use a taser?
You know, at this point, I believe they have tasers, but for me to comment whether they should have or not, I'm not going to answer that question at this time.
Sheriff, you talk in general, so when people look at this video, just to educate folks who are in law enforcement, you know what I'm talking about in this particular incident. What should happen? What are the options, I guess?
You know, there's a lot of, you know, things I could say up here as an armchair quarterback. And let's just be honest. I mean, we have the luxury of reviewing this whole thing from our office. It's a whole different environment being out there and being confronted and having to make these type of decisions in a split second. And again, you've seen what transpired, and I'm not going to go through it because it wouldn't be proper, but you know, a lot of other bad things could have happened if actions weren't taken. So, you know, I really don't want to get into the what ifs or what they could have done. You know, that's all going to come out later and as part of the investigation. I'm not going to touch on that.
Sheriff,
Chris?
Yeah, Sheriff, can you tell us about what you know about his activities that day, where he was going, and is there any indication about why he may have swerved into the truck in the first place?
You know, at this time, that's all part of the investigation. I really haven't spoke that in depth with my detectives at this point as far as, you know, when he got up, where he was going. I don't think at this point it's relevant in what we want to do here today.
Sheriff, I'm sorry, just procedurally now, is the investigation still going, and what do you do with it? Do you send it to the state police, to the prosecutor?
As I said at the beginning, our goal now is to gather all the facts, all the information. We still have officers to talk to. We will put our reports together. We will put all of the evidence and witness statements that we have together. We will make an appointment to meet with the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office to review our work. They're going to be the experts. They're going to make some determinations, and in the end, then we will come back and report to the Roseville Police Department on our findings.
Sheriff, just to follow up on my question, is there any idea at this point why that he may have gone into the oncoming traffic lane?
Still questions that will be answered at a later date, if we'll even be able to figure that out. Charlie?
Sheriff, can you tell us how long each of the officers who are on leave or involved in this incident, how long they've been on the force? I don't know if the chief can answer that.
One officer's 5 years. The other officer's a new hire. She's been with us about 2.5, 3 months on the road.
Thank you.
And it was the male officer, the 5-year veteran who fired the 9, and it's confirmed it was 9 shots. It was believed in the release, but has that been solidified?
It has been 9 shots, yes.
So determine, Sheriff, if he was hit anything prior to this?
I'm sorry, Sean?
Did he hit anything else long before this
No.
on the road?
Not that we're aware of at this point in the investigation.
the time of the shooting, how many officers were on scene? Has it been determined?
We believe it was just the two,
Just the two?
just the two.
Chief, any indication on what this, the driver that was, ran into, what he saw, what he witnessed to describe the man as being distraught?
You know, the investigators did speak to him, and again, at this point, I don't want to elaborate on all the facts and with what that individual said.
But that wasn't him on the 911.
We're not sure yet if it is. We're still figuring out who the 911 caller was. It could have been, but I don't know.
Do you have some more details about the officers? Are you guys releasing their names at this point, or if there have been any prior issues of shootings?
At this point, that's all going to be part of the investigation, and we're not going to be releasing the names. Charlie?
Sheriff, I'm sorry to bother you. I just had a follow-up question, or wanted to know if there was any update at all on the semi-truck driver who was involved in the crash? Is he cooperating with the investigation?
Yeah, he was, he gave a statement, guys in the back. Yeah, he's been cooperative, and, yep, there we go, in the front.
Sheriff, appreciating fully what you're saying about Monday morning quarterbacking and that this needs to be investigated and vetted, but you watched it multiple times, we saw it once. How much distance was there between the officer and this gentleman, and was there a lunge? I'm looking for more clarity in regard
Right.
to the point of shots being fired.
At this point, I'm not going to break down every piece of that investigation. That's the job of my investigators. We wanted, again, to be transparent. We have this video. We could have done wait till the completion of the investigation, and then it takes on a story of itself. Here we have body camera footage. We have footage from a business in the area. Now it's our job as investigators, to go through each piece of that, and was this appropriate? Was that appropriate? What was the distance? Yeah, there's things in the back of my mind I'd love to say, point everything out, but that wouldn't be fair for me. That's the job of my men and women to do and make sure they have an independent and thorough investigation for the officers and for the family.
Appreciating it's fluid, do you have an idea of how long that may take, days into next week? I mean, is there an expectation?
I would give it a couple weeks. Again, it just happened yesterday, and we're here today, again, for transparency and letting the public know what occurred. But, I'm not going to rush my people. I want them to do the job right, and they're expecting us to do the job right.
And Sheriff, after the collision, was there any contact between Robles and the driver of the semi?
I'm not sure.
If Roseville's chief, could you address whether your officers, aside from this situation, obviously here, the use of tasers, do your officers carry tasers? Somebody had brought that up, and are they easily accessible?
Yes, all our officers that are assigned to road patrol have tasers on their person.
Sheriff, Sheriff or Chief, you wanted to we've had other officer-involved shootings lately in Metro Detroit. Just from a personal standpoint, what can you reassure the public? What are we supposed to take out of this? Is there a morale in the office? Just what are you officers, thinking about now?
Every day, you put the uniform on. Again, these officers, didn't think they were going to be involved in this situation when they went to work yesterday. Even responding to this call, they believed it was a traffic crash, which, any deputy officer may handle a couple, three in their shift. And when it turns into this type of situation, especially an officer-involved shooting with a fatality, you just never know. And again, our job as executives, I believe, is to make sure that our staff have not only the proper equipment, but the proper training, and make sure that they're following policy and procedure. I think that's the most, and that, for the most, if our guys and gals go on out and do what they're supposed to do and follow everything, it's going to be a good day.
Sure.
Chris?
Just a couple quick follow-up questions. Can you talk a little bit about the knife? Do we know what type of knife he had and the size of it? And there might be some speculation out there from folks that this was possibly suicide by police or attempt suicide.
Right.
Can you
Answer
address
that question. I am not going to stand up here and say that was the case at this point in the investigation. The knife was a 4-inch blade. It looked like a fish filleting knife.
Is there anything from the witnesses who were there? We heard the 911 call, So apparently, right after this accident, they go to help him, and he then has this knife in hand, or can you clarify? Obviously, first time they see the knife, call 911, police apparently see it when they arrive, or can you clarify, he apparently grabbed it right after he was in this accident, or how?
According to that 911 call that you heard, it appeared that when they went up to his truck to help him, he had a knife in his hand and he self-harmed. He cut his wrist. So
So you're taking from what you're hearing there that the cutting of the wrist was occurring at that time?
I'm only, again, I told you I wasn't going to speculate, but listening to the 911 caller, you know, my investigators will be able to lay that out in this investigation.
And in the release yesterday, it was said not believe drugs, alcohol playing a factor. Can you clarify on that, or just none in the vicinity?
You know, it's going to be, is there an alcohol factor in it that he drove? You know, many drunk driving crashes left the center. People cross over, go into oncoming traffic. At this point in the investigation, we don't believe alcohol was a factor. That was just something that somebody may ask. Obviously, there'll be a postmortem and a toxicology report, so it'll be a few weeks before we find out what was in his system.
Chief Monroe, when we had you, any update on the condition of the 12-year-old from the middle school accident?
We got an update last night. She's still in the hospital, still in very serious condition, and we don't really have a determination if they expect her to recover or not.
And just follow up with Chief, can you talk a little bit about when officers may pull a taser versus their weapon? If there is a policy you can discuss or share about when that might happen?
Our officers are trained. Tasers are not always reliable. They're just another piece of equipment that do malfunction. In the training we do provide them, a knife is a deadly force situation, and they're not trained to pull their taser. They're trained to go to their sidearm.
Thank you.
And, Sheriff, can you tell us, we heard the witness talk about, the man being distraught and having a knife. Do you know if the dispatcher had been able to communicate that to the officers?
That is part of our ongoing investigation into this complaint. At this point, I'm not ready to comment on that.
Are you able to comment formally if the officer in interviews has said he felt his life was in danger? Actually said
We haven't interviewed them yet due to some contractual obligations through their collective bargaining, but our investigators will be interviewing both officers shortly.
Thank you.
Chief, I believe this gentleman's from Roseville. Can you talk a little bit about whether you've had any prior contact with him at his home or for any incidents whatsoever?
We have had contact at the home with him and another family member.
Can you detail that a little bit more in terms of the type of contact and when that occurred?
Regarding the individual involved in this incident, we did have an issue several years ago where he was arrested and he did fight with our officers.
Okay, and what was he arrested for? Can you just?
I believe that was domestic violence, so.
Did you guys have a chance to talk to Roseville Schools as a lawyer? Did they help at all? And any light to this?
I spoke briefly with the superintendent just out of courtesy, but we did not discuss the investigation.
Do you know if he had been, to school to work that morning?
I'm not aware. I couldn't comment.
I asked this question not to infer that it's not the correct policy, but in light of Grand Rapids and officer identification and fatal shootings. I'd be interested in your thought in regard to procedurally, is this customary as far as investigations continue? We don't just put an officer's name right out there, or
Yeah.
it seemed to be a sticking point in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, in Grand Rapids, but again, in this situation, you know, we're here today, 28 hours later, being open, being transparent. You know, we have officers, and especially the officer involved in the shooting, you know, that needs to process this, and to throw the name out, and it's too early. You know, it's not that we're hiding anything, and it's not that, you know, we don't want the public to know, but at this point in investigation, we're not going to be releasing the name.
Understand.
Chief, are you doing anything, Chief or Sheriff, are you doing anything for the officers in Roseville, any type of health training or any kind of
Yeah,
activity that?
we will be doing a critical incident debrief with those officers and all the officers involved early next week, and then we will be providing counseling if it's appropriate, if it's needed.
And Chief, did the suspect, the deceased, did he have, in their prior contact with him, did he threaten to take line? And have you had any other contact with him aside from that particular situation?
I'm not aware of any, it's specific to that other incident or any since then.
Well, I appreciate you all stepping up and coming out today, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.